So imagine your country's entire university system just explodes. It grows so fast, so uncontrollably that you're left with a huge question. How do you manage that kind of growth without letting quality fall apart? Well, today we're going to dive into the incredible story of how Turkey tackled that exact problem, building a national blueprint for quality right from scratch.
To really get a sense of the scale here, you have to rewind the clock. Back in 1990, the whole country of Turkey had just 29 universities. It was a pretty small, centralized system, something you could actually manage.
But then, things started to accelerate fast. Just 15 years later, by 2005, that number had jumped all the way to 77. The system more than doubled in size in just over a decade. And believe me, this was only the beginning.
By 2020, the number hit an absolutely staggering 202. I mean, think about that. That's almost a 600% increase in 30 years. We're talking about a rate of growth that would put an unbelievable strain on any education system on the planet. And this brings us right to the big, central question of this whole story. When you have hundreds of new schools and literally millions of new students flooding the system, how in the world do you make sure that a degree from one university is just as valuable as a degree from any other? How do you even begin to maintain standards? Yeah, this was so much more than just a building boom. The real challenge wasn't about pouring concrete and putting up campuses. It was about protecting the actual value of an education. It was about making sure every single diploma handed out had real, undeniable credibility. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. This kind of rapid growth puts pressure on absolutely everything. Suddenly you need more qualified professors, you need more funding, you have to design new curricula. It puts a strain on the entire system from top to bottom.
So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel while the system was basically on fire, Turkey's leaders did something really smart. They looked outward. They turned to the European higher education area to find a blueprint that was already tested and working.
You can actually see how this all played out on this timeline. It starts in 2001 when Turkey joined what's called the Bologna process, which was this huge European project to make university degrees comparable across different countries. Then, in 2005, Europe laid out its official standards and guidelines for quality assurance. This all led to the launch of the European Higher Education Area in 2010, which basically gave Turkey a ready-made framework to plug into. Now, it wasn't a perfectly straight path. Turkey did have a few early attempts to create its own quality control commissions and run some pilot programs, but the growth was just too big, too fast. The system needed something more, unified, more independent, and frankly, a lot more powerful. And the real game changer, the moment this whole story pivots, came in 2015. This was the year a single, powerful, and truly independent council was created with one clear job: oversee quality for the entire system. And that body is called THEQC, the Turkish Higher Education Quality Council. Now, the most important words on this slide are administratively and financially autonomous. This was huge because it meant THEQC wasn't just another government committee. It was set up from day one to be an independent authority that could make decisions without political interference. So what did it actually do? Well, its job was massive. The QSC was in charge of creating national quality policies. It had to send teams to evaluate every single university at least once every 5 years. It authorized other independent groups to accredit specific programs. And this is so important, its job was to spread a quality culture across the whole country. Okay, so that all sounds pretty good on paper, right? But what does this quality assurance machine actually look like on the ground? How does it really work for a student or a professor day to day? It's actually this really cool multi-layered process. First, every single university has to do its own internal self-review every year. And get this, they have to publish the results. Then, once every 5 years, an external team of experts from THEQC comes in for a really deep evaluation. And finally, specific departments like engineering or medicine can get accredited by their own independent bodies. And this is where the system gets really granular. Program accreditation isn't just a vague review of the university. It's a super focused process to make sure that a specific degree, say a degree in medicine, meets a recognized national standard. So a medical degree from a university in Ankara is held to the same standard as one from Istanbul.
And you can see exactly how this works right here. THEQC is smart. It doesn't try to be an expert in everything. Instead, it authorizes these specialized independent groups to handle accreditation for different fields. So you've got one group for engineering, another for medical schools, one for teacher education. Each one is an expert in its own domain.
Okay, so with this really solid quality system locked in place, Turkey could finally shift its focus. It wasn't just about managing an explosion anymore. The next chapter was about pushing for excellence through a brand new strategy, specialization.
And a university landscape itself is pretty diverse. You've got a mix of public state universities and these nonprofit private schools called foundation universities. This mix created the perfect breeding ground for different schools to start carving out their own unique identities.
The big idea they came up with was called mission differentiation. Basically, the government launched this project to get universities to stop trying to be a one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, the goal was for each university to focus on its unique strengths and, this is the really clever part, to contribute directly to the economy of its own region.
And you can see exactly what that looks like in the real world here. For instance, Kürşat University now focuses on agriculture and geothermal energy, things that make sense for its location. Meanwhile, Uşak University specializes in textiles, leather, and ceramics, which are the key industries for its local economy. It's all about creating these powerful, specialized hubs of expertise all across the country.
So after this absolute whirlwind of 3 decades, Turkey went from putting out fires in a crisis of quantity to building this incredibly sophisticated system for quality, and now to growing these specialized centers of excellence. It's a truly remarkable story. And it leaves us with one final big question. Having built this amazing foundation, what's the next frontier for these universities as they step out and compete on the world stage?